Okay, so painters. Painters are here. Painters have been here for over a week. Four guys. I think one day there was only three guys. A lot of, if you watched my previous videos, because I kind of do them in order as the house is being built, on carpentry, now it's pretty much covered up with primer, so. But it's a lot of work. There's a lot of nail holes to fill. Now, I did the finished carpentry in here. And when I do finished carpentry, I always think about the painters. So I always, I use the nails intelligently. I don't just put nails anywhere. Sometimes if I can nail somewhere where the painter doesn't have to fill it because it'll be covered by another piece of trim or whatever, I did that. So there's still a lot of nails to fill. I use tens of thousands of nails in this job. I was here for a couple months. But anyway, yeah, so they had a lot of, the point is they had a lot of prep work. A lot of caulking, a lot of prep work. This house is like crown molding in every room. It's like they call it an 8-inch, it's actually a 7.5-inch crown. All these, all this stuff. I mean, it's everywhere, right? So if you watch my previous 3 or 4 videos, whatever I did on trim, you'll see. So these guys had a lot of prep work to do. So they did prep work for, I think they had about 6 days of prep work, So, and they work long hours. So anyway, yeah, so now they've started, I think it was yesterday. Well, yesterday was Sunday. So I think it was on Friday they started with the primer, which is a sanding sealer. So a new construction, to get the first coat on bare wood, whether it's some of this is MDF and some of it's wood, it's a mixture. And so they use a sanding sealer. It's like a sanding sealer. What it is it's a lacquer-based product. It's a quick dry. So, like Kills quick dry, it's like that. The difference is after this is applied, it dries in like 15 minutes, and then you can start sanding it. So they put that on as a first coat. Now this is a first coat, and you see it's covered. These are MDF. This is plywood. These trims are wood. Covers it all pretty good. And then what they have to do is that's after all the nail holes are filled, all the caulking that needs to be done is done. I didn't have them caulk in here obviously because this is not supposed to be caulked. This is a panel mold, and it's shaped so that it creates this detail here. And then I didn't have them caulk all these panels here, where the molding sits on top of a plywood. So I didn't have them caulk here because it's designed not to be caulked here. But they could have caulked here, but I had them not. I didn't want to pay them because it's a lot of caulking. I didn't think it was necessary. I mean, I think by the time they get the oil paint on here, it'll fill in most of this. If there's a few little tiny hairline cracks here and there. I mean, nobody's really going to notice, right? I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, they didn't have caulking for decades. I mean, caulking really started to get popular in the 70s. This wouldn't have been caulked anyway in a lot of older homes, and nobody cares. So I didn't have them caulk this on all these panels because throughout the house. They would have charged more. I got this whole job done, including the outside of the house, 2,000 square foot house with a 3-car garage, 10 and 12 foot ceilings, a lot of details, which you'll see or have seen if you've been watching the videos on this house, for $11,500. Now, these are my regular painters on my spec houses. So whenever the builder builds his own home to live in, this is my house to live in, it's just like an unwritten thing. Everybody gives them a discount. So probably this job, normal price would have been maybe around $13,500. That's labor and materials. That's the inside and the outside. And the outside is all siding. There's no brick, so meaning there's a lot of paint. Now, of course, this back wall doesn't have a lot of paint because it's mostly windows. But anyway, my point is that included the inside and outside, and that's not a brick house where they're just basically doing the overhangs. It's a fully sided house. Anyway, yeah. So I didn't want to drive that price up. I didn't think that was important. I mean, if I was doing it for a client or if I was doing it as a spec house, yeah, I would have, because I've done these details before on more expensive spec houses. All these would have also been caulked, but I told him, I said, I think it'll be okay. Anyway, yeah, so I mean, it's a personal choice. And again, I mean, maybe it would have been another couple of $1,000s if they had a caulk, not because of the material so much, but just because of all the labor of having to caulk all these panels throughout the house. Yikes. Anyway, yeah, so the sanding sealer goes on first, and then it's sanded, and then the oil paint. I mean, they basically do it in one coat, but the oil paint is a heavier coat. This is a thinner coat. It's really meant to seal the wood so the oil paint doesn't soak in. And then MDF, if it's showing the edge of MDF, and I don't have much of that in here, because anything showing an edge, like all my shelving, basically, which I went over in other videos, but I trimmed it with wood 1x2, right? So it doesn't show the edge of the MDF shelves, right? So, but anything showing an edge has to be treated. It's extra treatment, so it has to be sealed and then sanded and then sealed again because of the way it looks and the way it soaks up the primer before it can be oil painted, if you want it to come out right. So anyway, in new construction, obviously, once the house has been painted, then repaints are a whole different. New construction is a lot more work because there's all this prep work. It's all new wood and everything. It's a much more tedious process than a repaint where they would just come in and, it's just one coat of paint. There's not that much prep, So, but anyway, yeah. So they've got the sanding sealer done on most stuff. These small panels. I think they're not going to use the sanding sealer on these because I'm painting these the same color as the wall. Now, some people like to paint these out white and then paint the wall color. I don't like the way that looks. It's just personal preference. There's no right or wrong. I didn't want, and I wouldn't want to pay them to have to cut in all these, let's say in a different color with an oil-based paint, and then you got flat on the walls. So anyway, they're working on that now. They're finishing up on the sanding sealer on one end of the house, on the other end of the house, and then on this end of the house, they're starting with the oil paint. So they've already got some of the oil paint done. The garage, I had them, when they came in here to prime the new drywall, because I did smooth wall finish, I didn't do any texture on the walls, this is all smooth wall, then you have to put a high build primer on there. It's a Sherwin-Williams product. I think it's actually called high build primer. And that's put over all the drywall before you start the trim job. It gives you a better paint job, a smoother paint job when you go to paint over it because it's a high build. It's a real thick primer and it neutralizes the drywall paper, the look of the drywall paper, and then the difference between the drywall paper and the tape joints. It neutralizes all that, right? So I had them do all that already. So that was done. And then while they were here, I said, well, go ahead and throw a coat of paint on the garage, which I used I'm doing flat throughout the house. But in the garage, I did an eggshell or a satin. Well, you can't see because it's dark. They got all the windows taped up now. Plus, it's like 6 or 7 at night. Anyway, so I had this all painted. That way I could start, because we're going to be moving in here, so anything I bring from my other house, it's going to end up staying here. And so I had them, so I could just start putting out, all this stuff here, all the tools I was using to do the trim and everything. So this is basically done, except for the window and this door here. And then I used a 1x6 for a base molding, just a regular 1x6 pine lumber, nothing like framing, kind of like framing lumber. But I picked out some nice ones with no knots. And then they'll paint that, but they don't need to spray. They can just paint it with a brush. I like to have something at the bottom in case you hose out your garage. It doesn't get water all over the drywall. Anyway, yeah, so this is basically done, right? So now they're going to go through and they're going to do the oil paint. And I think is this the oil paint is a semi-gloss. No, they haven't started the oil paint here yet. But I know they were oil painting in here. This is going to be my office. Yeah, they started on the oil painted here. Now, the camera's not going to show the difference between the two. And especially if it was a sunny day and the paper's off the windows, you'd be able to tell the difference because the sanding sealer is like a flat sheen, and this is a semi-gloss. I don't like gloss, it's too shiny for me, so I usually go with semi-gloss. And then it's oil paint. Oil paint always, it carries the shine better. Oil paint is a harder finish. And so So in a semi-gloss, it looks good on trim. I just think the gloss, it's just too shiny. Anyway, yeah. So now they're working in here. They're just starting to do the oil paint. They did oil paint most of the crown molding in the house. They did that first. Ceiling's got one coat of flat on it. Now they'll come back and they'll roll the ceilings and cut it in. They spray the ceilings first, got the first coat of paint on, even though there's the primer underneath, the high growth primer. And then they'll come through. So they do the sanding. Okay, so the first thing they do is they come in, they do the ceilings. The ceilings are always white. So they go through, they spray the ceiling, get a coat on. Then if there's a crown molding, they come through and they'll oil base or latex, whatever you prefer. Here you can use oil base. Now when I lived in California, you basically couldn't use oil base because they didn't sell it. Or they didn't sell it in gallons, so nobody's going to buy quarts. So you ended up putting latex on everything, which is a real problem when you have shelves. If you live in a place where they don't use oil paint, it's not allowed, whatever. What I noticed in California is, so you put stuff on a shelf, especially if it's in plastic or something, and then you come back like a couple months later and this items are stuck, not even a couple months, this stuff is stuck to the paint, no matter how old the paint is, right? So sometimes even you would pull an item off the shelf, maybe a piece of luggage or whatever you got on your shelves and your closets and stuff, and it would take the paint right off the wood. So anyway, oil paint doesn't do that. I don't know why. I mean, they're trying to stop using oil paint. I mean, yeah, it's probably not the best for the environment, but I mean, I think there's a lot of other ways we can save the environment besides creating sticky shelves, for example. Anyway, but that's another conversation for another day. So anyway, yeah. So then they'll come through. So after they do the crown molding, they want to get that done. The crown molding is a pre-primed MDF, so it didn't need any primer. So they were just able to fill the nail holes and paint it. And then they come through, and then they do all the sanding sealer, right? So all the bare wood. And like I said, I'm pretty sure they're not going to use sanding sealer on this. They're just going to hit it. Maybe it'll take an extra coat of flat paint. They're going to have to roll this. I mean, they can't spray it. You don't want to spray flat paint on. So it gets rolled on. But anyway, and this whole wall here, this is all semi-gloss. It's all oil paint. This is not going to be the wall color. Yeah, so then they'll come through and do that, and then when the sanding sealer is done, they go and they sand it all. They have to sand it to get it smooth, right? And that's why it's called sanding sealer, because if you try to put oil paint on and then sand, you can't really sand oil paint, right? I mean, it just gums up the sandpaper. And you'd have to leave it sit for like a week. This stuff you can sand it in 15 minutes. And it sands nice. It's like sanding the wood, actually. Anyway, so they'll sand this, they'll get this all really smooth, and then they'll come through and they'll do the oil paint, the oil base on all the trim, and then in the end they come through and they cut all your colors in, right? So they'll put all your colors on your walls. That's the last thing they do. Here I'm going with this color now. Like I said, these colors I'm looking at it right now as I'm recording it. It looks like it's really green. It's not quite that green. I can give you the color numbers, and then if you want to check it out, if you go on the internet and you Google these color numbers, because Sherwin-Williams is such a big paint, they'll come up on the internet. The paint chips will come up that are pretty accurate as they display on your phone or your computer, they're not displayed. This is looking way more green. Anyway, and then they'll actually have rooms, people that have either taken pictures of their rooms or whatever. I mean, I think any color in Sherwin-Williams, you just Google it, you'll be able to see what it actually looks like in a room, in several rooms. People have it on Pinterest or whatever, and then you'll see the color chips from Sherwin-Williams. This one is SW9133. All the Sherwin-Williams colors start with SW. So it's 9133 Jasper Stone. We have high ceilings in this house. We have a lot of trim. I mean, the Jasper Stone is basically going to be this wall, this little bit around the window. There's not much here, so we're going with really dark, like old school colors, from way back. Because we have so much white trim in here, you can get away with it. Now, you can do it anyway. I mean, you could have just a tiny little trim at the bottom and 8-foot ceilings and still put the dark colors. But it might make the room look real small, for example, or like a cave. But with here, like a 10-foot ceilings in here, and then all this white trim, this is all going to be white, the color isn't going to, change the look of the room too much, but it'll be intense. I like dark colors. Me and my wife like darker colors as a general rule. So this is a good house to get away with it. And then in here, we're doing, this is the only light colored room in the house. She basically picked out the colors. I picked out only the color for my office. This is SW6147 Panda White. So as you can see, it's not much different than this. We just put this one on as a test. It's too dark for this. This is a small bathroom. I mean, it's like, I don't know, 9 foot by 5 foot, something like that. It's typical, sink, toilet, tub, bathroom. And then in here, this is a second bedroom. This one we went with SW9110 Malabar. We did try the bathroom color in here, but she decided she wanted something a bit darker. Now this room doesn't have as much trim. It doesn't have all that panel detail. It's just got base and casing, but it does have 10-foot ceilings. Also, we put this molding. There's a molding here that we put all the way around. It's a panel mold. It's like 1.25 inches by 3/4 inch. We put that down about, I think it's down from the bottom of the crown molding 6 inches where there's 10-foot ceilings and 8 inches where the 12-foot ceilings are. So we're going to paint from there up to the crown molding. This is all painted white. This is all painted with the oil paint, including the strip of drywall here. What it does is you can see the impression of a bigger crown molding, right? So it just gives you a visual impression of a bigger crown molding. So I know it's not showing up really well here, but that's the molding there. And then there's, like I said here, there's 6 inches of drywall and then the crown molding. This is going to be painted the ceiling white. Well, the ceiling white here is flat, but then this is basically the same color of white. It's just white, which all the trim in the house. Yeah, the crown molding and then the oil paint, the oil paint, So, and that's actually already done. I know it doesn't show up on here. So the color will actually start here. And again, that's an old school thing. You look in Victorian houses or older houses, that's kind of the flavor here on the inside. Obviously the outside looks we cheapened up. We didn't care about the outside, so we didn't do anything fancy out there. And then we're the only house on the street. I mean, we have the whole street to ourselves. And then it's kind of it's a wooded neighborhood, obviously. So it just blends in on the outside. We didn't want to put in like a painted Lady Victorian here or something. Anyway, yeah. So again, these colors are not showing. These are just test colors. This is the one we went with, that Halcyon green, and then we just decided not to use these colors. In here, in the half bath, what do we go with in here? It would be SW0056, classic sand, darker. It's got a bit of a pinkish, it's like a dark tan with a bit of a pinkish base to it, I guess you would call it. It's a little half bath. This would be the bathroom we're basically using every day. I think it's close to the family room, kitchen, eating area. And then in here, we used SW. God, it looks really green on this camera. It's not any kind of green like this at all. Anyway, like I said, if you're interested, check it out online. Just Google the SW6213, and it'll come up along with it in rooms. And this is a Halcyon, Halcyon green. Yeah, so that's going to be here in the hallway. And again, there's a lot of white trim in here. It's a dark color. I know it's not showing up correct here, but you can see it looks a little more closer to what it actually looks like in real life when I stand back. But you can see it's quite a bit darker than the drywall, for example, or whatever. So it's a dark color, but there's not that much of it here. I mean, starting here is all cabinets, and they're going to be white cabinets. And then so you're going to have a little bit here, you're going to have quite a bit down the hall, and then a little bit here, and then this wall is basically almost all windows, and you have a little bit up here. I mean, there's not much. So there's not a lot of it. And then we've got 12-foot ceilings in here. And again, from that little molding there, that's 8 inches down in this area from the bottom of the crown molding, is going to be up there is white, is oil-based paint, to make it look like a large crown molding. So yeah, so that's the color we're using in here, and also in the laundry room. We don't want to have too many colors in the house, so in the laundry room we'll do the same color. And then in the master bedroom, and also in the master bath. So the master bed and master bath, And master closet. I always paint master closets the room colors. All the other closets, the not walk-in closets, or even if they're small walk-in closets in secondary bedrooms, those just get painted white. It's easier for the painters, and it's easier when you repaint. It's only master closets that I paint the same colors as the master bedroom. And here, the master bedroom, master bath, and master closet will all be painted this color here, which is called rain washed. This is a bit lighter. It's SW6211. See when I come in, it looks like really green. Eeks, that looks hideous. Anyway, it's not that looks a little bit more accurate there. That's fairly accurate, actually. I think because it's a lighter color, it's showing up a little more accurate. It seemed like a popular color online too. There was a lot of people that put pictures up of when they painted their house this color. Anyway, yeah. So that's kind of the deal. So painting, you got, like I said, you come in, you do your ceilings first, and then you do your standing sealer. Well, they do the crowns. We've got crowns in every room of the house, including in the laundry room and half baths and everywhere. Even the master closet has a crown molding. Because I'm doing it myself, so. But anyway, yeah. So then they do the crown, and then they come and do all the standing sealer. Crown didn't need a standing sealer because it was a pre-primed MDF product, so it already came primed. That just filled the nail holes, and then so that is all the prep work, and then the standing sealer, and then the oil paint or the trim paint if you're using a latex paint, and then the walls. That's kind of how it goes in new construction. And then colors. I mean, it's all a personal choice, but when you have high ceilings, a lot of trim, a lot of windows, a lot of light coming in, that sort of thing, you can get away with darker colors without making them feel, overpowering. But a lot of people too, if you got 8-foot ceilings or just more of a standard ranch house or whatever, there's other techniques are to do one wall in a dark color, in a dark, what they call an accent color, and then a complementary color or lighter complementary color on the other 3 walls. That's another trick you can do. But we're just going, these rooms, we're going dark all the way through. So just because of the situation. Anyway, that's a little bit of a I don't know, primer on painting and how it all goes. I mentioned, cost $11,500. That's a deal. I just figured it would be probably $13,500. Probably gave me $2,000 off. Also, he wasn't real busy, so it's a great place to park his guys too. But he's been working every day. It's not like he just comes when he's not busy. I mean, he's been here every day, and he'll be here every day till it's done. Probably, but I think by the end of this week, and today's Monday, so by the end of this week, they should be done and out of here. Because now the hard part is the prep work is always the most work. I mean, all the nail hole filling, and of course the sanding too, but the nail hole filling and the caulking and all that. I mean, they spent 6 days on that, and then they spent the outside took 4 days total, I think. That's all the prep and the painting. That was pretty easy. And then the painting itself doesn't take that long. But then they're still not done, because what will happen is so they'll put one coat on the walls. So they'll put one coat. So let me mention that also. And this I've built in 4 different states, and this is pretty much the way it works. So they'll come through, they'll paint the trim out. That'll be done. And then they'll put one coat on the walls. And then what happens is the electrician comes in, the HVAC guy comes in, plumber comes in, the tile guys, all the different trades that come in, because now once this is done, then it's everybody can come in now, right, and finish off their trade. I've got to install the kitchen cabinets, but your cabinet guy would come in. Painters like to paint before the cabinets go in, unless you're having site-built cabinets, in which they include painting the cabinets. But I buy pre-made cabinets. I just think they're better than site-built, better finish. You can't get a factory finish like on a job site paint job. So anyway, so all the other trades can come in, but they'll come back. So he'll when everybody else is done, like carpets in, everything's done, right? He's the only guy left. He'll come back. He'll put the second coat on the walls and paint there'll be shoe moldings in the rooms that don't have carpet. So he'll paint the shoe moldings. He'll put a coat on the shoe moldings now, just get a coat on them, you know, because he can lay them out in 16-foot pieces on sawhorses and spray them all out. But anyway, yeah, so then he'll paint the shoe moldings and all the touch-ups, and his doors get nicked, and, you know, all the stuff that happens from the other trades. So he's even going to come back. Yeah, he'll come back for probably, with 4 guys, I'm going to say he's going to spend probably at least 2 days in here. 2 to 3 days. Painting out the walls and finishing, you know, just doing, so my point is he's coming back even for more work, more painting, you know, right? So, but that's new construction. That's kind of the procedure. That's how it works. Like the pricing, this is Texas pricing. I'm a builder, I get stuff cheaper, and then now it's even cheaper because it's my house to live in. So don't use my pricing, especially if you live on the east or west coast. Definitely don't use these prices as a guideline. Any prices I give, because I always give prices, you know, how much the drywall guy charges, the framers, you know, everything. I mean, I just, because people need to know, you know, I mean, that's to me, it's important. It's like when I watch videos on stuff, I always want to know, what are the numbers, you know, somebody, like you watch flipping videos, you know, on YouTube, right? I just want to know the numbers. What did it cost? How much did they put into it? You know, that kind of stuff. So anyway, but I give the numbers in pieces, you know, as I go for each of the trades, what I pay for it. But don't go to your painting guy and say, hey, you know, this guy in Texas paid this much. And boy, it's hotter than heck. It's been over 100 degrees every day, so these guys are painting in a lot of heat, and it smells bad. You know, the oil paint in the primer. It's nasty. I mean, they're done. They just left because they leave around 5:30. You know, the house stinks like heck right now. And plus, it's still probably still over 100 degrees. Anyway, yeah. So that's painting, kind of painting 101 for new construction, how it works, the procedures, and you know what to expect. And then, like I said, I gave you my colors that I'm using. I forgot the colors I used on the outside. The colors I used on the outside of the house, I use on a lot of my spec houses. They have these books. One's called Traditional, one's called Suburban. Okay, they're not books, but they're like fold-out pamphlets, like 3-page fold-outs. You know, like 8 by 10 inch, something like that. And then they have these groups of like 3 colors already picked out for you that all work together. And then they'll show some of them on a house. So I just go in those books, and because they already got it figured out. They know that this is like a gray with a little bit of a green background in it. Goes good for this kind of neighborhood. And then they got the white. And then, well, okay. There's also an accent color, which I use on the doors. Or if I have some of my spec houses, I put like corbels and stuff on the outside, and then I'll paint the corbels that darker color. So it's this dark green here. But anyway, the colors are already picked out there. You already know they go together. You don't have to sit there and figure it out. Yeah, see, so I put on the garage doors, and you know, so you got your body color, your trim color, and your accent color. But this could be your trim color, and this could be your body color. I mean, this could be your body color. You know, you don't have to. You do whatever you want. But these 3 colors are already figured out, and they have many. There's about 6 or 7 of those books, and some are called Coastal, Suburban, Traditional. I don't know. They have the different names for them if you go in there and ask. And then like, for exterior colors, and then they've got these. They'll have 3 colors put together that all go together. So, like I said, it takes the guesswork out of mixing and matching colors. Anyway, yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, and that's kind of what's been going on. And you know, I'll probably have another. I don't want to record when they're here because it stinks to high heaven. I mean, they all got masks on and stuff, so it's just not functional, and it's noisy. The sprayer's noise, and then they've got a compressor that they use to blow air off the shelves before they paint them. You know, it's just anyway. Okay, this is going on 29 minutes. All right, I need to get back to work. So, check out my other videos. Check out my channel, other videos, all different types of construction, all the different trades, cover everything. When I'm doing the work, I usually do the work, and then I explain about it. Like if I was painting, I would have done this painting and then explained what I'm doing. It's just I'm explaining what somebody else has done. Instead of, I don't record me doing the work. I just do the work and explain what I did, why I did it. If there's measurements or dimensions, I usually give those, you know, guidelines, that sort of stuff. So anyway, check out my channel, check out my other videos, and back to work.